Hey everybody, happy fall, October 1st here. So even though I live in Florida where they call it summer with pumpkins, it is officially fall, I feel like. So I thought it would be fun today to draw some pumpkins with you. First, what I'm gonna do is show you in our sketchbook just a couple of quick do's and don'ts on drawing something rounded. Then I'm gonna use a small scrap of watercolor paper and show you how to use some watercolor techniques to paint it in. And then I'm going to draw in that space just a oval. It's okay that you have lots of lines. We can erase those. And also, pumpkins are kind of a good thing to draw because none of them are ever perfect. So we're gonna make a little dip right here, and that's where our stalk is going to live. And you can make your stalk however lumpy or long or short or whatever, you know, they're all different from each other. I'm just gonna draw some lines kind of down. So that's our stalk. And then from here, a lot of people are tempted to just draw straight down, and that is not going to be the way something that is rounded is going to look. So we're going to start here in the front, and I want you to imagine, and if you have a hard time going from here to here, you can also make dashed lines, right? So I'm thinking I want my line to end up down here, right? So I can make just sort of a dashed line, and then if I need to, I can connect the lines like this, right? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of echo that line, and I'm coming down and around. I'm just drawing something around, right? Now, the ones in the middle are not gonna have much roundedness to them because they're straight on. So I'm just being kind of quick about this one. Also at the bottom, you're going to want to have this line be kind of rounded. They don't all have to have a lump like this, but some of them should, to give it that sort of pumpkin look. Right? Okay, so here's my sketch. What I don't want to do, I want to show you also. So I see some people will do, like, they'll make an oval, like, or even a, you know, some of them are round and some of them are circles. In fact, I'll do one over here that's round, or, right? Okay. So say I put my stalk in there, right? So I see people, like I just said, and they don't bring the lines rounded. Or they'll do a little bit rounded, but it's still like this, right? So that still isn't quite rounded enough. And with the circle type pumpkins, let me bring that over here. Okay. The circle type pumpkins, again, you're gonna just sort of echoing the edge line. So, and then in the middle, these are not going to be as rounded. Sometimes you'll also see where the stalk kind of sits all the way at the top of the pumpkin, and that's okay too. But you're going to want to make this, you're going to show a little bit more of this bottom shape. So I want to determine how big I want to have my pumpkin and how wide I want it. You know what, I might add, I don't have anything in front of me sadly to look at, but I might add like a skinny tall pumpkin. Whenever I know I'm looking for pumpkins, I want to I want to have one that's really fat and squatty, and then I like to have one that is, I'm trying to think of where I want it to go to. So like maybe it's down lower too. And then I like to have one that is, and this is an important trick here, that if you're wanting to make something behind one another, you'll want to go ahead and draw the whole shape. Like that. And then you'll erase whichever line is in front of or behind, right? So in this case, I want to have this pumpkin behind, so I'm going to erase this one. Okay, so with this one, I've just kind of drawn in the stalk, and I would like to just start drawing in my lines. I'm just drawing them pretty lightly. And down here, I like to make mine really rounded at the bottom. I think that looks very pumpkin. Now you'll notice right here, I brought this kind of to give it a little more shape. I brought this line closer to the stalk there. Okay. So I can darken up a little bit of these lines. And again, if there's a line that you don't like, or you feel like doesn't belong, like that one over there, then you just erase it. I'm gonna draw a little, just an indicator of like something underneath there. A leaf here somehow. Shocking. Okay, so then my tall pumpkin. All right. So the lines on this at the top are going to be rounded and the bottom are going to be rounded. Okay. So many choices, right? So here I'm just sort of doing connected V's for the teeth. And I want to make the same ending on each one. Okay, so there's his mouth. Doorbell. Okay, so I've drawn on my pumpkin faces and I made just a little ground line. I am going to have this little set of Daniel Smith watercolor. I have just taken some water and just wet the tops of my watercolor. And I have one paintbrush I'm going to be using here. It's a size 2 watercolor brush. And I have a paper towel. I think that's about it as far as supplies are concerned here. So I decided that I'm going to paint the background a blue purple color. So turn your paper whichever way feels good to you. So I'm gonna just turn mine like so. Now, you don't have to paint the background of yours if you don't feel it, if you're not feeling it. You could leave it plain. You could go with a sky color. You know, it's your work. So I'm just taking my brush, going around. I didn't tape this off. A lot of times watercolor, you'll tape things off. So I'm just sort of creating a little border for myself there. And this brush is helping me out. It's a flat. So you can see it doesn't have a point to it. It's a flat. So I'm just kind of moving this around to where it works for me. You want to be somewhat careful that you don't get the purple onto your pumpkin. That would be kind of hard to get off of there. So, and you can see I'm leaving it a little bit splotchy. I want to go back in and add a little bit of blue on top while it's still wet. So you can see that. And I'm not real concerned with making this part perfect. I think I will probably send this as a postcard. Just add an address and a stamp to the back. Let's see if I can find my blue. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to just add a couple of dots in the back of blue, and you can see that because it's wet, it just kind of bleeds right in. I think that kind of adds to my Halloween vibe. I decided I was going to take a pencil while my background is still drying, because this has to be dry before I paint that. I haven't carved a pumpkin in a couple of years. I think this might be the year to do it. have a new grandbaby. She's not old enough to, she's only a couple months old. Definitely not old enough to enjoy pumpkin carving, but definitely be looking forward to that coming up. Okay. And you can make the faces on your, you know, pumpkin, you know, less PG than mine. Some people like to make them really scary, and some people like to have funny ones. Now, some people like to use a hairdryer to dry the paint so they don't have to wait. I feel like the waiting part gives you an opportunity to, you know, make decisions, like artistic decisions, like, hey, do I want to make this a white pumpkin? Do I want to make it an orange pumpkin? You know, whatever. Okay, so I can kind of hold it up. Oh, now see, I can see there's a big drip here that's still drying. But this is feeling pretty dry. Could still use a little bit of another moment. But you can see how dropping that blue paint in there, it just sort of like, because the other paint was wet, it just kind of dissolves in there. I like how that turned out. Okay, so for the shadow, I am thinking that the light is coming this way, or whatever light is coming this way. So I'm just gonna make just a little bit of a shadow. Nothing too much. And that can just kind of be, follow along the size of the pumpkin. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and leave that little bit of border right there too. So I guess I'll just kind of be like that. Maybe that's that stalk at the top. Okay, so I'm ready to go ahead and paint the orange. And so what I'm gonna do is, on my little palette, I am going to have some red here that I've pulled. So I just pulled some red and put some water in it. I have my paper towel here if I need to kind of, there we go. So I can wet my brush and just wipe it out. Then I'm gonna get some water on the yellow and kind of just bring that over here. Add a lot of water to it. And I'm gonna grab just a little bit of the orange. There we go. Okay, and I can add some water to that as well. Looks like I'm gonna have to hold it. It doesn't really wanna lie flat. Okay, so on this pumpkin, it looks like, I wanna check just, yeah, that's dry. Just over there is still wet. So I'm going to just kind of add, this is that yellow and red, but a very watered down version. And with watercolor, you want to kind of keep moving. You don't want to let this dry right here. Otherwise, you will have a kind of hard line that you can't move around. And like I said, I can go right over top of that colored pencil. And you can see where I have a little more of the pigment in the paint right here. I like to start with just a little softer color and get the color kind of where I want it. And then, actually I'm gonna go ahead and give that a layer. Okay. So then down here, I'm gonna start adding a little bit more pigment. I'm going to bring that color just on the edge, a nice strong color on the edge. And then I'm going to bring that same color, that same pigment, which is really just mostly red, but it does have some yellow in it to make orange. You can see that because the paper and the paint is, the paper, yeah, with the paint on it is wet, that it just sort of fades right out into. So you can kind of keep adding layers as you go. I'm gonna make up a little bit deeper color even, just up here on my tray. And as the paint on the paper here dries, it will stay, it won't spread out as much. It'll stay kind of where you put it. A little bit more you'll see as you go along. Okay. I don't want to keep you all day. So, I think I will go ahead and add just a little tiny bit of green and some brown to both the stalks. Because they've been picked and are dried out, they're not going to be super green. They're not going to be super bright. This is pretty bright right there. I do want to find some brown over here. Let's see. Is that brown? No. Okay. So I think I'm wanting to have this be a white pumpkin. Those, I think they're called Cinderella pumpkins, maybe. So I just have this kind of like really pale violet. And just down here at the bottom, I'm using my brush to kind of round around there to make that shadow. And then I think I'll give it a nice shadow over here. Like that. And now my brush is not quite small enough to get into those eye shapes that I made. I'm gonna try. But if I had another brush available, I would go for it to get a smaller brush. Okay. I think after that dries, I might add a little bit of blue to it. Down here, I want to add something. I think I'm going to use this. Nah, I don't love that. So what I'm going to do is just use that as a wash. Hey, Dottie the dog. What are you up to? Okay, so you can see I can take that little drop of paint I just put down and I can really just kind of cover this whole area. I'm just adding water at this point. Okay, there you have it. Happy fall, everybody.